who I don't know about you, but comes to be one of my favorite characters in the whole thing. So, actually, I want to skip that part. Yeah, no, there's no quiz. My Word wouldn't open this morning. So they get on the train. We see Luna reading from the Quibbler and stuff. Actually, there's nothing in that chapter we're going to talk about. So let's go to the Sorting Hat's New Song chapter. Because this is pretty killer. Page 204 and 205. Okay, we heard the Sorting Hat song in what other books?
The first
one.
And the
And the fourth. Okay. The fourth just kind of gave us a little bit additional more information, but it doesn't change the tone of the song. Yeah, it's about the same length as the first one. This one changes the tone entirely. 204 and 205. In times of old when I was new and Hogwarts barely started, the founders of our noble school thought never to be parted. Okay? Wish I was over near the board. Because the hat starts bringing up words of division. All right? So parted. United, opposite of parted, right? So you've got parted on one side, united on the other side. United by a common goal, they had the self-same yearning to make the world's best magic school and pass along their learning. Together we will build and teach, the four good friends decided, and never did they dream that they might someday be divided. For were there such friends anywhere as, and when you first read this, first reading, did you expect it to be Slytherin and Gryffindor? No, because those two are polar opposites, right? As Slytherin and Gryffindor. Unless it was a second pair of Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw. So how could it have gone so wrong? How could such friendships fail? Well, I was there and so can tell the whole sad, sorry tale. How can the Sorting Hat have been there?
It belonged to Gryffindor.
It belonged to Godric Gryffindor. This is Gryffindor's hat. He whipped it off his head and did what? All of them put a bit of their brains into it. Like a pensive kind of. Okay. So, said Slytherin, we'll teach just those whose ancestry is purest. Said Ravenclaw, we'll teach those whose intelligence is surest. Notice, Slytherin modifies those with just. We'll teach only those. Okay? Ravenclaw doesn't modify those. It's just we'll teach those what? Whose intelligence is surest. Said Gryffindor, we'll teach all those. All's kind of the opposite of only. But it's restricted. Those with brave deeds to their name. What kind of brave deeds did Harry have to his name prior to putting on the Sorting Hat? Unintentional. He didn't do that. That happened.
He's maybe stand.
Well, no, on the train, he stood up for Ron.
Yeah.
And he asked to be
Okay, he asked to be, yeah, but he stands up for Ron, stands up to Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle. So, said Hufflepuff, I'll teach.
Lot.
What's the lot mean?
everyone else.
Is it everyone else? It's everyone. I'll teach all those with pure ancestry. I'll teach all those with sure intelligence. I'll teach all those with brave deeds. And guess what? And I'll teach all you other slobs too. Okay? These differences caused little strife when first they came to light. For each of the four founders had a house in which they might take only those they wanted. So, notice, they'll take only those they wanted. Who comes last? Hufflepuff. Who comes first? Slytherins. They took only purebloods. Okay? Of great cunning, just like him. And only those of sharpest mind were taught by Ravenclaw, while the bravest and the boldest went to daring Gryffindor. Okay? Daring Gryffindor, Ravenclaw, Slytherin. So only Gryffindor and Hufflepuff get modifiers in the second instance where they're named. Good Hufflepuff. She took the rest. Notice, Gryffindor does the taking. Okay. Slytherin does the taking. Ravenclaw essentially does the taking. But it's good Hufflepuff. She took the rest. It's kind of like, elementary school. PE. Got to break everybody up into teams. Who does she get? She gets those that Slytherin, Ravenclaw, and Gryffindor don't want. She gets, essentially, the kind of people that Dobby told Harry about in Book 2. We dregs of the magical world. Only they're not house elves and goblins and centaurs. They're we human dregs. Huh. She took the rest and did what? Taught them all she knew. What are the qualities of Hufflepuff House again? Loyal, just, true, and industrious, hard workers. Thus the houses and their founders retained friendships firm and true. So Hogwarts worked in harmony for several happy years. How many is several?
More than two.
More than two? Is it?
More than a couple.
You would say a couple years.
Okay, you'd say a couple years. And then what usually would you say after that? Would you say, I've got one book, I have two or a couple books, I have a few books, I have several books, I have many books, or lots, etc. How old is Hogwarts? It's over 1,000 years old. How many is several within that 1,000? 10? Maybe 20? It's not long. It's not long. It's within the 1,000 years reign, so to speak, it's like almost immediately this starts to fall apart. For several happy years, then what crept among us? Discord. Notice how it's spelled. Okay. Is discord the opposite of harmony? Yes, it is. But it's not spelled D-I-S-C-H-O-R-D. Okay. What's at the root of the chord in discord? Now, I know in music, it is the C-H-O-R-D. But Rowling is playing on words here.
Like a chord length.
Nope. If you have a heart attack, what are you suffering? Cardiac arrest. Disheart. Okay, the character, Lear's youngest daughter in King Lear, her name is Cordelia. It means of the heart. Richard the Lionhearted. That's not his real name. It's Richard Coeur de Lion. Richard of the heart of the lion. Okay? Discord is dishearted. Okay? My rendition. But the human heart is shaped or formed how? It's got 4 chambers, right? So we have Slytherin, Gryffindor, Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff. There are 4 chambers to Hogwarts. 4 houses to Hogwarts. Well, what's going to happen? Slytherin's going to leave. Okay? And what are we told? But discord crept among us, feeding on our faults and fears. What's meant by faults? Does that mean errors? Our mistakes? No. It's not what it means there. What's it mean? Any of you been to California? I'm from California. Earthquakes to me aren't that big a deal because I've lived through a lot of them. Well, what causes earthquakes? Shifting fault lines. What are faults? What is the San Andreas fault? Close. It's a big old crack in the Earth's crust. The faults and fears are the fault lines. between the houses. Discord did what? It crept in there. And like every winter happens, you get rain, you get a hard freeze, it thaws, rain, hard freeze, thaws. What happens to roads made out of asphalt? You get potholes. Why? Because they crack. So, feeding on our faults and fears, the houses that, like pillars four, had once held up our school, now turned upon each other and divided, sought to rule. Slytherin now turns against the other houses, and Slytherin wants to be what? Number one. And Gryffindor wants to be number one, and Hufflepuff wants to be number one, and Ravenclaw wants to be number one. And for a while, it seemed the school must meet an early end. What with dueling and with fighting and the clash of friend on friend. And at last there came a morning when old Slytherin departed. And though the fighting then died out, he left us quite downhearted. Slytherin leaves. We're told the fighting stops. So Slytherin's the problem, right? If they could only get rid of the Slytherins, Hogwarts would be a wonderful, happy paradise. No. How do you know? What house does nobody want to be put in? Hufflepuff. I mean, some people want to be in Slytherin, right? Malfoy, Pansy Parkinson, the Crabbe and Goyle, etc. Nobody really, apparently, wants to be in Hufflepuff. So Slytherin leaves, and they're now downhearted. And never since the Founders Four were whittled down to 3 have the houses been united as they once were meant to be. Why? Well, look at the image.
If you take away that, the rest of them have to work harder.
You take away one of those chambers, and what happens to your heart?
It dies.
Yeah, X's in the eyes and a frowny face. I mean, you don't work. And now the sorting hat is here, and you all know the score. What's meant by score? Like musical score that the hat is singing by. What other kind of score? Slytherin 1, Gryffindor 0, right? Or whatever the score is. I sort you into houses because that is what I'm for. That is my purpose. That is my end. That is why I was made, so to speak, as a sorting hat, not as Gryffindor's hat. Okay? But this year, I'm going to go further. You're all expecting me to sort you, you newbies. The others, they've already been sorted. But now I'm going to go further. Listen closely to my song. And you would imagine most of the students hearing this are going, especially the 2nd through 7th years, are going, what's this? Though condemned, I am to split you. Still I worry that it's wrong. Condemned. What does that mean? We hear part of the meaning of the word in the second half. Modern English. Damned. Though damned, I am to sort you. What's it mean to sort? You, Gryffindor. You, Ravenclaw. Hufflepuff. Slytherins, you know. But it'd be equal. I worry that it's wrong. Notice the hat is telling us it has what? It has volition. It has conscience. I don't like doing this. Though I must fulfill my duty and must quarter every year. Quarter.
Separate into 4.
Divide up the incoming first years. How many people are there in Harry's dormitory? His specific room.
4.
Harry, Ron,
Neville,
Neville, Dean, and Seamus. There's 5. So how many first year boys are there total? 20. 5 for each of the 4 houses. Same with the girls. So there's 40 in each class. So how many students total? 40 times 7, 280. Okay? If I remember right, if my math is right. So, notice what he's saying there. I must quarter every year. So I've got to divide you into quarters. 5 for Ravenclaw, 5 for Gryffindor, 5 for Slytherin. What else does that mean, though? How must he quarter them? What must the hat do to each individual who comes up and sits on that stool?
Determine their qualities.
And how?
By reading their minds.
I don't know, man. Is this like 26% Gryffindor?
So you have to do like math and be like, make it even.
Well, what's the hat have to do?
Read
What
their mind.
it has to say. Does this person have predominantly Gryffindorian qualities, Ravenclaw? It does what to each person? It splits.
Their personality.
Does this tell us anything about a major theme that comes up kind of at the end of this and in book 6 and then book 7?
Being divided, you're not as strong as if you're united.
No. Some of your faces are telling me you're along the same path I'm on. I don't want to say too much. Well, how many of you have seen the films at least?
Yeah.
Has everybody seen the films?
Oh, he has heard.
You haven't seen the films? Have you not finished the books?
No.
Okay, I won't say it.
Does it start
Okay.
with an
It starts with an H. Though condemned I am to split you, still I worry that it's wrong. Though I must fulfill my duty, I must quarter every year, still I wonder whether sorting may not bring the end I fear. What's the end the hat fears?
The end of Hogwarts?
Yeah. The destruction of Hogwarts. Why?
Because they're divided. The houses
It's
themselves.
exactly it. Because the houses are divided. And, as Abraham Lincoln said, quoting Jesus, a house divided against itself cannot stand. It can't. What did Dumbledore say at the end of book 4? We are only as strong as we are united. Okay? Know the perils, read the signs. The warning history shows. And I think that's Rowling 1, speaking to the audience within the books, but I think that's also Rowling speaking to her audience of the readers of the books. Know the warnings of history.
Because history
Or, George Santayana said, those who don't learn the lessons of the past, what? Are condemned or doomed to repeat them. You got to learn it over and over and over again. Our Hogwarts is in danger from external deadly foes, and we must unite inside her or we'll crumble from within. So, Ron branched out a bit this year. Harry, too right. Hermione, I wonder if it's ever given these kinds of warnings. Nearly headless Nick. Yes, it does. Okay. So, it starts sorting. And Harry and Ron are stuffing their faces. In 209, they're still talking about the sign, or the hat. And Nick says, page 209, the hat's given many warnings like this over the years. Okay? Harry, and it wants us all to be friends? It wants all the houses to be friends? This is in response to Nearly Headless Nick says, well, Ron S., how can it know if the school's in danger if it's a hat? I mean, come on, really. I have no idea, but it lives in Dumbledore's office, so I dare say it picks up things in there. Notice, it, verb, lives. It doesn't sit in Dumbledore's office. It doesn't reside. It lives there, and it picks up things. Harry, and it wants all the houses to be friends as he looks over at Draco. Fat chance. Well, now you shouldn't take that attitude, says Nick. I mean, look at us. Us house, we get along really well. I would never dream of seeking an argument with the Bloody Baron. Ron, because you're terrified of him. Now think about this for a moment. Nick is what? Dead. What can the Bloody Baron do to him? Can he make him more dead?
No.
Can he inflict pain on him? No. Can he take away pleasure from him? No. Because Nick doesn't have any pleasure, right? And he doesn't really have any pain. I mean, he can flop his head off and it's just hanging by that little thread of skin. Maybe that's pain for him, okay? So, we find out about a couple changes in the teaching rotation, let's call it. Hagrid's not there, so Grubbly Plank is back. And Umbridge is there. And how does Umbridge get everybody's attention? Just want to smack her, okay?
Yeah, really.
As many people do, apparently. And what kind of speech does she give? How does she speak? What kind of language does she use? What does she speak like?
She's kind of condescending.
Dictator, kind of condescending. How else? Look at the bottom of 212. The Ministry of Magic has always considered the education of young witches and wizards to be of vital importance. The rare gifts with which you were born may come to nothing if not nurtured and honed by careful instruction. The ancient skills unique to the wizarding community, the treasure trove of magical knowledge. Every headmaster and headmistress of Hogwarts has brought something new to the weighty task of governing this historic show. Blah, 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 blah. She talks like a politician or a bureaucrat. She says an awful lot without saying anything. Okay? Who's listening? Hermione. So she finishes, sits down. Hermione says, that was illuminating. Ron, you telling me you enjoyed it? I said illuminating, not enjoyable. What's the difference? Illuminating means what?
Gives a shed light on.
It shines light on. In other words, it dispels darkness. It makes clear what was unclear before. It explained a lot. Harry, sounded like a load of waffle to me. Some important stuff hidden in the waffle. Ron, was there? Blankly, he says. How about progress? For progress's sake must be discouraged. How about pruning wherever we find practices that ought to be prohibited? Well, what kind of practices ought to be prohibited?
Pretty much from her to use a magic.
Okay. What other practices? What do you think she would think of Moody's teaching the unforgivable curses? That would be a no-no, yeah.
Unforgivable.
Yeah, unforgivable. Hermione finally explains what it means. It means the ministry's interfering at Hogwarts. Who used to run Hogwarts? I don't mean individually. I mean, Dumbledore's the headmaster. Who's behind Dumbledore? Nope. Nope. Yeah, them. Mm-hmm. Yep. The 12 governors
Yeah.
whose signatures are required to remove Dumbledore. The 12 governors apparently are now out the picture. Now the ministry calls the shots. Okay? So, Harry goes on up to his dorm room that night after the wonderful first year feast. And what does he discover for the first time in his life? In this dorm room, at least. Discord. In the form of Seamus Finnegan. Why does Seamus bring discord into the room?
Because he tells Harry that his mother didn't want him to be there because
His mother didn't want him to go back, especially because Harry Potter's there.
reading the Daily Prophet.
And Harry says, you've been reading the Daily Prophet. And her mother's been, okay? So Harry takes a shot at her. Seamus says, don't you have a go at my mother. Harry, I'll have a go at anyone who calls me a liar. Don't talk to me like that. What's happening? Testosterone's rising, armament is building, and they're getting ready to have a... And Ron shuts it down. Why? Because Ron has the shiny new badge. He's the new sheriff in town, so to speak. Okay? Neville pipes up, page 219. My gran says that's rubbish. She says it's the Daily Prophet that's going downhill, not Dumbledore. She's canceled our subscription. We believe Harry. My gran's always said, who would come back one day. She says if Dumbledore says he's back, he's back. And Harry's like, way to go, Neville. You still can't do anything, but way to go, Neville, So, chapter 12, Professor Umbridge. Okay, we're going to skip a bunch. And let's see. He has class with Snape, which I'm skipping that. Defense against the dark arts. Pick up the 240, 241. So what does she do? She puts on the blackboard, Defense against the dark arts, a return to basic principles. And she has down her course aims. I don't remember. Did I have course objectives in my syllabus? I usually don't, simply because I try to be contrarian. Course aims. Understanding the principles underlying defensive magic. What does that mean?
You're not learning
The
defensive magic.
concept. Conceptual.
The concepts, the theory behind defensive magic. So what's the theory that underpins Expelliarmus?
You have somebody attacking you, you need to get the weapon out of their hands.
That's the situation. What's the underlying theory? Okay, kind of. What's
You say the word
that's how it works. You're all getting at my point. You can't define it. You can't state what the underlying theory is. Why? Because it's useless. It has no point. What is the underlying theory of learning how to drive an automobile? Is it to get to from point A to point B? No, that's not it. Is it to understand how an automobile works, how an internal combustion engine works? No, that's not it either. So if all you do is learn the underlying theory of how to operate an automobile, what freaking good is that going to do you when you get to the driver's testing station? And they say, okay, let's go out to the car. And you go, what? You mean I have to drive this thing? Well, yeah. Learning to recognize situations in which defensive magic can legally be used. Oh, so that's coming up with all the situations where you can use them. Use it. What does that mean? What are you going to do? Are you going to walk around? Are you going to carry a cheat sheet list? Let's see. Can I use magic in this one?
Legally.
Legally. Because what's it going to come down to? Yeah. In other words, is every possible situation going to be... No.
Number 10. Voldemort appears out of cauldron. Use Expelliarmus.
Are you Harry Potter?
Yeah.
No, go back to the
Yeah.
beginning.
You know, Dementors and Little Wingies.
Sorry.
Okay, what if they're in London? Placing the use of defensive magic in a context for practical use. So, everybody's dutifully, writing this down. So she says, let's start reading. Basics for beginners, no need to talk. So she sits down in her chair. She observes them all. Harry turns to page 5. He starts reading, and then Hermione's hand goes up. Okay. Question about the chapter? No. Well, we're reading just now. Hermione says, I've got a query about your course names. What gall? I mean, and your name is, and she tells her. There's nothing about using defensive spells. Well, she says, I can't imagine any situation arising in my classroom that would require you to use them. We're not going to use magic, Ron says. Raise your hand. How is she treating them? Okay, first, like children, like grade schoolers. But Harry, Ron, and Hermione are essentially what grade? They're high school. They're like freshmen, sophomores or so at this point. I've got what, 2 more years? Yeah, sophomores or so. Okay? So, Hermione says, 242, surely the whole point of the whole point of defense against the dark arts is to practice defensive spells. How does Umbridge shoot her down?
Saying that theory will be sufficient enough for the house.
No,
Are you planning on being attacked in my class?
no,
Are you talking about where she says, are you
yes.
Ministry.
Are you a ministry trained educational expert, Miss Granger? What did she mean by that? Are you qualified to even have that idea? Show me your teaching license. Now, I would love, frankly, I think it would have been genius for Hermione to say, are you? What is she? She's the senior undersecretary to the Minister of Med. Have we ever heard her name before in connection with teaching or teaching credentials? Do they even have teaching credentials here? I mean, you got Sybil Trelawney.
Yeah.
I mean, Moody, yeah, but Moody's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Lupin, he's pretty good. I mean, werewolves, half giants, crackpots. Okay, so they all start, hands shooting up left and right. 243. Dean Thomas says, talking about Moody. Okay. Well, let me back up just a little bit. Bottom of 243. It is my understanding my predecessor not only performed illegal curses in front of you, he actually performed them on you. Dean Thomas, well, yeah, he turned out to be a maniac, didn't he? We still learn loads. Notice what nobody says. Oh, or does it come up later? He was doing that at what? Voldemort's orders. Okay? She says, it is the view of the ministry that a theoretical knowledge will be more than sufficient to get you through your examination, which, after all, is what school is all about. What is school all about?
The ACT.
Especially after George Bush made that deal with the devil, Ted Kennedy, no child left behind. What did all education become about? Standardized testing. It's what it became. Didn't matter if you learned diddly squat. What mattered was that you knew how to take the test and you were prepared for taking the test. Why? What happens as a result of doing well on those tests? Guess what? The same damn thing applies here.
The school funding goes up.
School gets funding. Every one of you, the semester you graduate, you have to take your end of year senior exit exams. Those senior exit exams, guess what? They don't affect whether you graduate. They don't affect your GPA. What do? They affect the department that you are a major in. Because if your exams are, okay, the department will hear about it. Especially if you get a whole graduating class and they just suck. That then reflects back on the department. And the department has got to do better at what? Teaching, essentially, toward the exams. At coming up with course objectives. And making sure you have outcomes that are met. It's outcome-based education. Rather than what kind of based education? Knowledge. Knowledge. The transmission of knowledge. The learning of ideas you didn't know before. Okay? She is all about outcomes. But it's outcomes based on what? Theory. Okay? I don't know that this is the case. I could be entirely wrong. I've never read anything where J.K. Rowling has said anything about it. But man, she sure seems to be taking a shot at departments of education or schools of education with her portrayal of Umbridge. Because she is the quote-unquote educator par excellence. Not, I use that term intentionally, not teacher. I think there's a huge difference between people who call themselves professional educators and people who call themselves teachers. What's the difference? The one is Latinate. The other one is native Old English. What? Okay, so big deal. What's the difference between the two? This one, professional educator, thinks what about him or herself? This one says, I'm just a teacher. Just not meaning low, meaning I'm here for what? The kids. the students, whatever age they are. Okay? I'm here for this. This tends to be more for my experience of running into these two groups. This seems to be more for me, my group, my profession, rather than passing along, what used to be called the best that has been taught and said, or sought and said, whichever you want to put. So, what happens as a result in this class between Harry and Umbridge? Why does he get detention? What does he finally say to her?
It's not going to help him. Voldemort comes back and
she calls him a liar.
Yep. So she sends him off to McGonagall with a note. And McGonagall says, page 248, you told her he must not be named as back. Notice she doesn't use the name. Sirius used the name earlier. Lupin used the name earlier. Why doesn't McGonagall?
It personifies that
she doesn't believe.
No, it's not that she doesn't believe. She knows he's back. She believes Harry 100%.
doesn't want to give evil a name.
But Dumbledore says just the opposite. If you don't name evil, what? You don't really know it's there. Okay? You have to call it what it is. Parkland, Florida. That was evil. There's no other way to describe it. You could talk about attribution to why it happened till you're blue in the face. It was evil. Okay? Yes, I said, yeah, he was bad. Have a biscuit. And he's like, what world have I just walked into? And he says, she says, Potter, you need to be careful. Misbehavior in Dolores Umbridge's class could cost you much more than house points in a detention. She's the one who's previously been taking all the house points in detention from him. Or giving it to him. What? Use your common sense. You know where she comes from. You must know to whom she is reporting. Okay, she's teaching there. Kind of using Socratic method. It's a statement, but it works like a question. Potter, tell me where she comes from. Potter, tell me to whom she is reporting. Well, Hermione told him, right? You've been given detention. Harry, well, can't you what? As my head of house, can't you just make it go away? No, she says, I couldn't. Harry, but I was telling the truth. I thought, the truth shall make you free. Not in this case. For heaven's sake, Potter, 249. Do you really think this is about truth or lies? It's about keeping your head down and your temper under control. His temper, his rising anger. So what must he practice? Some self-control. She gives him another biscuit. Okay. And she says, didn't you listen to Dolores Umbridge's speech at the start of term? He says, yeah, but... Well, I'm glad you at least listened to Hermione Granger. In other words, she knows what he just said, he got from Hermione. Okay? So, detention with Dolores. We're going to skip a bunch. So, Harry goes to her detention, page 265. And he says, I'm on the Gryffindor Quidditch team. We've got practice, tryouts. And she says, no, we can't. What's he asking for? Can we make my detention later? Can we move it another? Just, a little slack here. No, we can't. Okay. So what's his detention? I must not tell lies. Did you guys ever have to write lines? Or is that long ago?
Yes.
I do. Only with my mom made me do it.
Okay, so some of you did. Well, when I was in school, blackboards, because I class clown, talked a lot, got in trouble a lot. One time, I was, 4th or 5th grade, maybe 6th, I think it's 4th or 5th. I had to write lines, and it was like, I will not talk in class kind of a thing. And the teacher left. She went down to the principal's office. This is California, where you have classrooms, and then you'd go outside the building. We had a big open campus and everything. No fences, nothing, none of the modern prison education system. And That was back when music was still taught in school. And we had one of those things that you could stick like 4 or 5 pieces of chalk in to draw the lines for a score.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, I'm smart. 4 or 5 pieces of chalk. I will not talk in class. And there's 5 lines right there. I think I had to do 200. So, went by not too bad. And she never came in and looked and noticed, wow, those are all perfectly formed and exactly alike. I think I even left before she returned. So he writes, I must not tell lies. And where does it show up? Back of his fist. But it doesn't show up at first. How many days does it take? All week. And every night, the scar tissue that starts to form, or the scab, gets renewed. Okay. So what does that tell us about Umbridge?
Crazy.
She's crazy. Nasty piece of work. Is she evil?
The rules don't really apply to her.
Is it that the rules don't apply to her? Page 272. Hermione says, Harry, what's that on the back of your hand? Just a cut, it's nothing. Sorry, Ron asked him that. Just nothing. I thought you said she was giving you lines, because Ron sees. Harry explains it. The old hag. Go to McGonagall or something. Harry, no. I'm not giving her the satisfaction of knowing she's got to me. Well, how would going to McGonagall give Umbridge the satisfaction of knowing she's gotten to him?
Because if he complains to McGonagall, McGonagall complains to...
It'd be like what? Tattling. I'm weak. Harry's not going to be weak. You can't let her get away with this. I don't know how much power McGonagall's got over her. Harry's also thinking what? That could endanger McGonagall. Okay? Tell Dumbledore. No. He's got enough on his mind. Liar. Why not? Why doesn't he tell Dumbledore? Because they've not spoken. Right? What happened after Harry's trial? Poof! It's like he goes out the door, boom, he's gone. Harry doesn't even get to say thanks. Okay? So, page 275, she said, let's see if you've gotten the message yet. And she says, yes, it hurts, doesn't it? Wow. Okay, let's go on.
Which is similar to what Voldemort was saying after crucioing Harry. Oh, that hurts.
It hurts, doesn't it, Harry? Tell me that it hurts. And Harry says, I won't. Okay. Did she get her jollies that way? I mean, are we told that she says, yes, and snickers or smiles or glow? No, we're not told that. For it's just Pain is what? Pain's a teacher. Is Pain a teacher? Yeah, one of the best teachers there is. You do something stupid enough times, and it hurts, you'll eventually learn. Don't do that, okay? So, Percy and Padfoot. Harry writes to Percy. Harry writes to Sirius, tells him about the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, and runs into Cho. Frankly, I wish he pushed her out of the building, but we get 287, Trespass at the Ministry, Sturgis Podmore. Where have we heard that name before? Louder, Mickey? He's in the order. He was there when they came to get Harry to take him away. Okay? So, let's see here. I'm skipping a lot.
And Filch tried to stop him sending
Filch tried to...
Stop him from sending his letter.
Yeah, but why did Filch do that?
Because he thought he was doing ordering, done whatever.
Okay, why else? What's Filch's purpose at Hogwarts?
To annoy people.
Kind of it. I mean, what's his first name?
Marcus.
Significance to the name? There is. Look it up. Okay? There is. What is Filch's job? He's caretaker. What else? Busybody supreme. His job is to make sure students don't have fun. That's why he and his nasty little cat. Okay? That's kind of one of the reasons why Harry's like, oh, there's Mrs. Norris. Or Ron's like, there's Mrs. Norris. Let's leave. Let's just let the damn cat suffer for a while. Okay? So,
Well, in Greek mythology, Argus is a monster with 100 eyes, used by Hera to watch over Lo. He was killed by Hermes and Hera, and then used his eyes to deck the peacock's tail.
Oh.
yeah, it's not all that imagery. It's
It's not pretty.
his eyes.
Yeah.
He's got eyes everywhere, right?
Because him and Mrs. Noise.
Because, exactly. Because he and his stupid cat are everywhere.
A watchful guardian.
Okay? I mean, what happened to the Marauders map? Filch took it. That's where it was when Fred and George found it. Remember when Lupin says, I know for a fact that this was confiscated. That was Filch who confiscated. Okay, so let's go on. Here, Ron gets a letter from Percy. What's the upshot of this letter?
Don't hang out with Harry.
Don't have anything to do with Harry. That's the main point. What's another point?
Congrats on being a prefect.
Congrats on being a prefect, following in my footsteps, you know. Okay? What's another point?
Dumbledore's crazy.
Dumbledore's crazy. Don't have anything to do with him. He's going where? Down. What's another point? Such a sweet, pleasant woman. Ingratiate yourself with Dolores Jane Umbridge. He speaks of her like she's wonderful, right? Which is kind of interesting. What does her last name mean? You don't have to look it up right now, but you can. You hear someone say, I take umbrage at that.
Offense, annoyance, displeasure.
First name, Dolores Via Dolorosa.
Sorrow.
The way of sorrows. That's the way Christ walked from his trial to Golgotha. Okay? So, painful sorrow on one side, and then offense. Well, that's kind of what she does, right? She's an offense that gives the pain in the, you know what. So, what does Ron do with this letter? He takes it, right, and folds it up or puts it in a nice frame because Percy's showing such great love. He rips it up and throws it in the fire. What is this telling us about Percy? Has he joined the ministry because he's been misled?
He wants the power.
Yeah.
Percy is after power. Okay. So, Sirius comes in the fireplace, and they talk. And Harry says, what do you know about Dolores Jane Umbridge? Is she a Death Eater? Sirius, 302. I doubt it. I know her by reputation. I'm sure she's no Death Eater. Harry, she's foul enough to be one. Okay, what does he mean by foul enough? Rotten enough. Sirius, yeah, but the world isn't split into good people and Death Eaters. You don't have good people and then everybody else is Death Eaters. What do you get between good people and Death Eaters?
Bad people that aren't dead.
Okay, not so good people, okay people, somewhat bad people who aren't Death Eaters, and then Death Eaters. Okay? And there's a lot of people who aren't in this group.
For good.
Yeah, and there's a lot, but not in this group. Okay? I know she's a nasty piece of work. You should hear Remus talk about her. Why? Because she drafted a bit of anti-werewolf legislation 2 years ago. So she doesn't like werewolves. Okay, so does that put her in the really, really bad people?
Is that when Lupin was teaching 2 years ago?
2 years ago, yeah, third book.
So it's like
So once he became unemployed,
once they found out he was a werewolf, they probably.
yeah, probably. But once he loses his job at Hogwarts, he then can what? as Sirius says, he can't find other work. Okay. So let's see here. Sirius keeps going on. Says, Fudge doesn't want you trained in combat. 303. He asks what Umbridge's lessons are like. Is she training you all to kill half-breeds? Harry, no. She's not letting us use magic at all. All we do is read stupid books, says Ron. He says, well, that figures. He doesn't want you forming some sort of wizard army, Harry asks. That's exactly what he thinks you're doing, says Sirius, or rather what he's afraid Dumbledore's doing. Notice how closely she puts the two words, army and Dumbledore, in the mouths of Harry and Sirius, so that we meet Dumbledore's army later on. Who comes up with the term? Neither Harry nor Ron. Ginny who comes up with the term. Okay? So, chapter 15, first time, Hogwarts High Inquisitor. Ministry seeks educational reform. Dolores Umbridge appointed first ever High Inquisitor. And I know I keep harping on it, and you'll do it at your own at some point in the future if you ever go. But the Warner Brothers studio tour, to see all of these, I mean, they've got the posters for every one of them as you make your way towards the castle itself. They're pretty cool. High Inquisitor, Harry. What does that mean? Well, what has Harry obviously never read about?
Positions of
Spanish Inquisition. That's where the word inquisitor comes from. Okay? You had the Grand Inquisitor. Dostoevsky's, which one is it? Brothers Karamazov. You got a inquisitor who asks people various questions. Now, inquisitor doesn't just mean investigator. It doesn't just mean detective. An inquisition is what kind of investigation? You will be found guilty. It's that kind of investigation. Okay? So, we read, Ministry of Magic passed new legislation giving itself an unprecedented level of control at Hogwarts. Be nice to be able to do that, wouldn't it? To pass a law to make yourself more powerful. It's been growing uneasy about what's been going on, so now Dolores Umbridge is the Inquisitor. Okay? So this is formalized with the passing of Educational Decree 23. Percy says what? This is an exciting new phase in the minister's plan to get to grips with what some are called the falling standards at Hogwarts. There's the problem. The students aren't learning. So government has got to get involved. The Inquisitor will have powers to inspect her fellow educators to make sure that they are coming up to scratch. How is she going to do that?
asking the student.
I mean, literally within the course of the book, how does she do it?
She sits in class.
That too. Sits in the class,
Asks.
asks students questions,
Mainly Malfoy.
asks the teachers questions. What does that presume on her part? That she's qualified to teach transfiguration, arithmancy, potions, defense against the dark arts, herbology,
Divination.
divination, all the subjects that are taught?
She must be a great witch.
She must. Okay. Notice, the ministry's new moves have received enthusiastic support from parents of students at Hogwarts. And we hear Lucius Malfoy, mouth off. And we're finally given an age, 41. Okay. Who's contemporary with Malfoy? Or a contemporary? We're not necessarily told that they're exact same years. But Snape is somewhat. Okay? Probably a little bit younger. Malfoy's probably a little bit old. It might have been, Snape and his class, James, Sirius, Remus, Lupin, all got their first years while Malfoy was 6th or 7th year. I think he is
That
supposed
would
to be a
make it
bit
about
older.
10 years difference, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, no. No, not 10. Only 4 or 5. Okay, so they go on. And what do we hear? Page 308. We hear some who disagree. Wisingamot elders Griselda Marchbanks and Tiberius Ogden have resigned in protest at the introduction of the post of Inquisitor. Hogwarts is a school and not an outpost of Cornelius Fudge's office, says Madame Marchbanks. This is a further disgusting attempt to discredit Albus Dumbledore. And then notice what they have next to that. If this were a web, journal, there'd be a link. For a full account of Madame Marchbanks' alleged links to subversive goblin groups, turn to page. Well, you just undercut the credibility of the person that you have quoted from. Why? To show that this person is a crackpot. And yet, we see Madame Marchbanks later on. Where? Wait, am I sure about this? Pretty sure she shows up in Harry's Owls.
There's nothing like that next to Lucius's name, like, or C's connections to.
Yeah, for possible connections of Lucius Malfoy to Lord Voldemort, see, nothing like that. Okay? So, this one is all about, she's going to now do what? Find out whether or not the teachers are qualified and capable. Okay?
Yeah, it is in the house.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so, divination. She questions Trelawney. Trelawney kind of has what's coming to her. I mean, she's a quack, right? Everybody knows she's a fraud. She's there for only one purpose. What is it? Keep her safe. Her protection. Okay? She also asks students questions. I'm going to skip some more. Let's see here. Umbridge takes points from Gryffindor for Hermione. Harry gets involved. Harry's mouth's off. He goes to McGonagall, page 319. Bottom 318. Are you telling me that after the warning I gave you last Monday, you lost your temper in Professor Umbridge's class again? Yes. Notice, speaking to the floor. Why? He can't even look her in the face.
Yeah.
Okay. He's really ashamed. Potter, you must get a grip on yourself. You're heading for serious trouble. Another 5. Umbridge already took points from Gryffindor for him. Now McGonagall's taking more? Why do you have to take points? Because of detention. Okay, now her answer doesn't respond well to Harry's question. Harry, why are you taking points from me? Because detentions do not appear to have any effect on you. In other words, if your entire house suffers, Harry, then maybe it'll get through your thick skull. Okay? So, they go off to McGonagall's class, and Umbridge shows up. How does McGonagall deal with Umbridge?
This is not even really long.
Okay, like she's not really there.
She's teaching her class like she would normally.
Teaches the class like she would normally. What does Umbridge repeatedly do?
Interrupt her.
Okay. How does McGonagall respond?
Yes.
It's like, yeah, I obviously got your letter, or I would ask you why you're here.
Okay, that's the first response. She also says, how am I supposed to teach if you keep interrupting me? Wham, So, what do we find out about McGonagall? How long has she been there? No. Trelawney's been there, though. 321. 39 years. This December. She's been there a long time. Okay? Very well, you will receive the results of your inspection in 10 days' time. I can hardly wait, McGonagall replies. Okay? So, Hermione comes up, pages starting on 325. She says, we're not going to learn any defense against the dark arts from her. Ron, what can we do about it? Too late, isn't it? I mean, she's got the job. She's here to stay. Fudge will make sure of that. Hermione, I was thinking today, and she looks at Harry, kind of side glance. Maybe we should do it ourselves. Do what ourselves? Harry, soaking his hand in the essence of, myrtlap tentacles or whatever. Defense against the dark arts. Ron, come off it. You want us to do extra work? Ron in a nutshell, right? Lazy. Do you realize Harry and I are behind in homework again? It's only the second week. It's only the second week of school. But this is more important than homework. And they're like, what? Hermione says something is more important than homework? I didn't think there... She says, of course there is. It's about preparing ourselves, like Harry said in Umbridge's first lesson, for what's waiting out there. It's about making sure we really can defend ourselves. If we don't learn anything, Ron, what can we do by ourselves? Okay? So, 326. Harry, if you're talking about Lupin, no, I'm not talking about Lupin. He's too busy. Well, who then? Isn't it obvious? Right over his head. Talking about you, Harry. About me what? You teaching us defense against them. That's an idea, Ron says. Harry, what's an idea? You teaching us, but I'm not a teacher. Now look at what Hermione and Ron do, and look at Harry's responses. Hermione, Harry, you're the best in the year at defense against the dark arts. No, I'm not. You beat me every test. She goes, no, actually I haven't. You beat me in our third year, the only year we both sat the test. Lupin. And had a teacher who actually knew the subject. I'm not talking about tests. Harry's thinking educational theory stuff, the test is what's important. Look at what you've done. How do you mean? Ron, I'm not sure we want someone this stupid teaching us. Let's think. First year, you saved the stone from you-know-who. That was luck, that wasn't skill. Second year, you killed the basilisk, destroyed Riddle. Yeah, but Fox showed up. Third year, you fought off about 100 Dementors. That was a fluke at the time turner. Ron, last year, you fought off you-know-who again. And now Harry's pissed. Listen to me, just listen to me, all right? Sounds great when you say it like that, but all that stuff was luck. I didn't know what I was doing half the time. I didn't plan any of it. I just did whatever I could think of, and I nearly always had help. And they're just sitting there smirking at him. Why? Because he's just given them the reasons why he ought to be doing it. None of it was planned. Okay, he says. He just did what he could think of at the moment. That's the essence of warfare. It's instinct. Don't sit there grinning like you know better than I do. I was there, wasn't I? I know what went on all right. I didn't get through any of that because I was brilliant at defense against the dark arts. I got through it because help came at the right time, or because I guessed right, and they're laughing at him. Literally laughing. How do we know? Because he yells, "Stop laughing!" Because they're like, Harry, if we gave you more shovels, you'd just keep digging that hole deeper and deeper and deeper. And now he jumps to his feet. I kind of think they stopped laughing at this point. Because now they realize he is deadly serious. You don't know what it's like. You've never had to face him, have you? You think it's just memorizing a bunch of spells and throwing them at him like you're in class or something. The whole time you're sure you know there's nothing between you and dying except your own brain or guts or whatever. Like you can think straight when you know you're about a second from being murdered or tortured or watching your friends die. Notice, he didn't even get a think before Cedric got killed. And we're never actually told they're friends. Okay? They've never taught us that in their classes, what it's like to deal with things like that. And Hermione's like, bingo. Not even Moody did. Moody came closest. The false Moody. We weren't having a go at Diggory. Hermione says, Harry, don't you see? This is what we need. What is she implying Harry can teach them? And it's something he can't. I mean, he's right about this. Instinct. Being fast on your feet. Thinking in a tense situation. Some people have it. Some people don't. I can walk into a classroom. I can walk into a group of 100 people, and I could just extemporaneously give anywhere from a half hour to a 3-hour talk without any notes. And other people can have notebooks and stutter all the way through it. It's just, something some people have. Harry has that ability. He can just, not that ability, he has the ability to just do the right thing. Where have we already seen it? In the clearing, right? He hears all those wizards apparating, and what does he immediately do? Duck! And he pulls them down. Okay? It's putting his arm out to stop Malfoy. Okay? It's raw instinct. So, goes off to bed and with his scar prickling. So he agrees, we'll try this. They go off to the Hogshead at Hogsmeade. Why do they go to the Hogshead? Not as popular. It's a little bit out of the way. It's usually empty. Okay. How many people has Hermione invited? A couple. A couple.
20 some odd.
Okay. So they go off, and Hermione says 3:35. I know it's a bit dodgy. I mean, students don't normally go in there, so I don't think we'll be overheard. Notice, for being as bright as she is, Hermione's really stupid. Because what's the problem? Well, we're going to end up with, including Harry, Ron, and Hermione, 28 students in this place, where there normally aren't any. That's, flashing neon light, something going on. So they go in, and Harry asks, so how many? She said, a couple. So they start coming in. Bottom of 337. Neville, with Dean and Lavender, closely followed by Parvati and Padma Patel. You'd think, after the Yule Ball, they wouldn't want anything to do with Harry. Anne Cho and one of her usually giggling friends, what's her name at the end? Marietta, yeah. Okay. Who else? Luna Lovegood, Katie Bell, Alicia Spennett, Angelina Johnson. The entire Gryffindor Quidditch team shows up. Okay. Colin and Dennis Creevy. Why? If it's Harry, you can't get them away from him. Got their stupid camera. Ernie Macmillan. Why? Because after book 2, Ernie trusts Harry. Justin Finch Fletchley, same thing. I don't care what anybody else says. Hannah Abbott. Now there's a name, a last name we're going to hear later on. And a Hufflepuff girl with a long plate down her back whose name Harry didn't know. 3 Ravenclaw boys. Pretty sure are called Anthony Goldstein, Michael Cornett, Terry Boot. Ginny, followed by a tall, skinny blonde boy with an upturned nose, whom Harry recognized vaguely as being a member of the Hufflepuff Quidditch team, bringing up the rear Fred and George and Lee Jordan. Harry looks at Hermione. A couple? A couple? Okay. So, Zachariah Smith, who's the kid with the upturned nose, why is he there? Louder? He's dating Ginny. Why else? He wants to know what happened the night Cedric died. What do people know about the night Cedric died? Dumbledore talked about it for about 2 minutes. Have there been any accounts of it in the newspapers? Nope. He wants to know what really happened. What's Harry say? Not gonna tell you. If that's what you're here for, leave. What do Fred and George say? Zach, come here. Let's help you out. They pull out this long, shiny, spiky thing and say, let's clean out between your ears. Nice little threat there. Okay. Who comes to Harry's defense other than Fred and George? Cho. Cho says, you know, man, you had to do some serious magic there in that third task. Really? How does she know? How does anybody know the magic they had to do in the third task? Where were they in the third task? They were all in the maze. Nobody else could see that. Okay? But she does come to Harry's defense, and that kind of makes Harry feel good. So they agree. They're gonna do this thing, and we get educational decree number 24. All student organizations, page 351, societies, teams, groups, clubs, henceforth disbanded. So what is a organization, society, team, group, or club? Anything defined as a regular meeting of 3 or more students. Okay? You can't have any of these things without the knowledge and approval of the High Inquisitor. What obviously happened? Either somebody told or somebody saw this big group. Any student who's done one of these things will be expelled. Okay? So what obviously is also included? Quidditch teams. So they have to get permission to reform the Quidditch teams. Okay? Let's see here. Let's skip a bunch again. He gets another letter from Sirius about when to meet up again. We see Umbridge observe Snape's teaching. And at the end of that chapter, page 363, and not quite the end. Take that back, it's not the end at all. 363, Umbridge asks Snape how long he's been teacher. 14 years. You applied first for the Defense Against the Dark Arts post, I believe? Yes. But you were unsuccessful? Obviously. Love that response. Okay. So he's been there how long?
At the same time,
Harry's 15 now. So after Harry's first birthday, he was appointed. And he applied for Defense Against, okay? And you've applied regularly. Now, keep in mind, where is this occurring?
In class.
Publicly. Okay? Yes, Snape said, barely moving his lips. Yes. Now go away. Do you have any idea why Dumbledore has consistently refused to appoint you? I suggest you ask him. Oh, I shall. This is relevant? Oh, yes. Thorough understanding a teacher's backgrounds. So why doesn't she go on? And you were a Death Eater? Children, did you hear that? She turns away. Harry gets no points from Snape. You know, additional homework and such. They have Defense Against the Dark Arts. Sirius almost gets caught in the fireplace. Go on to Dumbledore's army. I need to do it faster. Let's see here. So Harry needs to find a place where they can have class. How does he find it? Dobby tells him. Not in the movie. Neville shows him. Okay. So, page 386, Harry says, I need to find a place where 28 people can practice Defense Against the Dark Arts. Dobby tells him all about it. Now, Harry's already heard about this place, right? How?
Dumbledore mentioned a bathroom that just happened to appear with all these glittering toilets.
When he needed it. Okay? That's a requirement. So they go in, and walls are lined with bookcases. What kind of books? Defense Against the Dark Arts stuff. Okay? Yeah, faux glasses and all that kind of stuff. All the kind of stuff he saw in Moody's office when Moody occupied it. Well, the false Moody. What lines the floors, corners, cushions, and pillows so that when you get knocked out, you can fall and not get hurt. Okay? So they start right in on learning, spells, right? No. What do they do first?
They elect Harry as the leader.
Hermione, 391. We need to elect a leader. Ho. Ho. Cherry's leader. Cho. Harry's leader. Man. Hermione, yeah, but we ought to vote on it. Make it official and such. So everybody says. And they need a name. So they talk about names. Bottom of 391. Angelina, the Anti-Umbridge League. It's a pretty good name. Fred, or the Ministry of Magic or Morons Group. Hermione, something that doesn't tell everybody what we're doing. Cho, the Defense Association. Not bad. Jenny, yeah, DA's good. Dumbledore's Army. That makes it even better. That'll strike fear, So they vote on that. And then what does Hermione do? Stupidly.
Let's get a piece of paper.
And what's on the list?
The
Everyone's
name in
name.
it.
Hey, let's put everybody's names on it, email addresses, phone numbers, just,
Social Security.
yeah, get them all caught.
Does it ever? Oh yeah, never mind. It does. The jinx that she put on.
Yeah,
Paper.
well, yeah, we find that out later. So, Harry starts pairing them off and having them do Expelliarmus. Zachariah Smith, page 392. Oh, please. I don't think Expelliarmus is exactly going to help us against you-know-who, do you? Harry, saved my life. No, but you go ahead. You don't learn it. You don't learn it. You just... Okay. So they do. And notice in the first lesson, who actually does it against Harry? Neville. Okay. Now there are some extenuating circumstances there. How does Neville do it against Harry?
He was looking at the other direction.
Harry had his back turned to him. Okay. But the point is, Neville still does it. I've never done it before. I did it. Harry, good one. Not pointing out that in a real duel situation, Neville's opponent was unlikely to be staring in the opposite direction with his wand held loosely at his side. So why doesn't Harry point that out?
Because Neville needs somebody
He
to
needs
Needs
confidence.
encouragement.
He needs confidence and encouragement, and that's what Harry is doing. That's all Neville needed, apparently. Okay? So, they finish, everybody leaves, and there's Harry and Cho standing there, talking for a bit. And then Harry talks with Luna Lovegood. Let's see here. Lion and the Serpent. The importance of that chapter is what? Is it Weasley is our king? No, it is who returns? Hagrid returns. Where's Hagrid been? Hagrid's tail. Where do we know where Hagrid and Madame Maxime actually go to? Are we told where the giants live?
They told us like what countries they go through. You can kind of guess it's in like the Swiss Alps, but
Didn't they say mountains?
Yeah, I mean they are in mountains, right? Trying to remember because I don't actually have this marked. It doesn't tell us. We got into France, made like we was page 425, heading for where Olympus School is, because we knew he was being tailed by someone from the ministry. So they got to France, okay? Gave the Bert telling us the slip around Dijon. Hermione, ooh, Dijon. She pronounces it correctly. And then they ditch them. Okay. Other than that, we're not told where. Other than they were laying pretty high up in the mountains. 4 pretty high mountains beside a mountain lake. Carcass lying by the lake. Blah 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 blah. So, Alps could be. Did they maybe go through the Alps and go even farther east to like the Ural Mountain? We're not told. Okay. So, why did he go? Dumbledore's orders. Why wasn't he successful?
Because Carthage was killed.
Okay. Why else?
And the Death Eaters.
Got there before them. So Fudge won't send emissaries to the giants, but who will? Why?
Give them time.
It's an easy ally.
Natural allies, like the Dementors. Notice, for Dumbledore, this is a harder get. I mean, this is a much harder, but he's going to try. Why? Maybe if we can at least get them to be, maybe if not even allies. Maybe if we can keep them, ooh, this really ties in with the Swiss Alps. Never thought about that before.
Neutral.
If we can make them neutral, yeah, never made that connection before, then, that would at least be helpful. Because book 6, they're not neutral, right?
Right.
The hurricane in the West Country, not a hurricane, okay? So, 441, Eye of the Snake. Hagrid is now teaching, and he introduces them to Thestrals. What are they?
They're a winged horse with the flesh kind of falling off, and only people who have witnessed death can see them.
Yeah, like skeletal Pegasus. Okay? Pegasi.
They're a mascot for a Quidditch.
But
And their mascot for MTSU's Quidditch team, like it's half-assed Fledge or the horse with the wings thing.
But it said
Yeah.
that it was larger than a winged horse.
Right. Okay? Who can see them? People who've witnessed death. Harry can.
Harry Neville.
Neville
And
can.
a Slytherin girl.
Yeah.
Luna can, and a Slytherin girl can.
Girl.
And Hagrid.
Well, yeah, Hagrid.
Yeah.
Of course.
Look at this. Someone tell me.
Okay, so you can see them after you've witnessed death.
Okay.
How come Harry doesn't see them the first time he goes to Hogwarts?
He didn't know he witnessed death.
But he saw death.
Should have been able to see it.
He should have been able to.
But it's only like when you register what's happening.
Okay.
Because he wasn't able to see them at the end of the 4th book either. Like they got on.
And that's my point. That's the exact point I'm getting to. Okay? Harry didn't see them at the end of the 4th book. He had seen death up close and personal. He saw Cedric die immediately. Actually, he didn't see it. He closed his eyes. Why? Because the scar hurt him. But he heard Avada Kedavra plop.
He thought he would.
Okay? So why didn't he see it then? Well, J.K. Rowling had to explain that in an interview. I think it was on the Today Show, after this book came out. And she essentially said, and I think this is being Weasley, not Ronald Weasley. This is weaseling her way out of a tight spot because she didn't think about the consequences. She said, oh, well, you really have to think about and contemplate, and it has to use the words Mike used, register. Nah, I don't think so. I think it's because she just, when she invents them here, she didn't think of the earlier instances. Okay? It happens. Maybe, I think, frankly, she ought to go back and do a revised edition. If for no other reason, she gives all the money she makes now, most of it, to charity. Think of all the charities she could just give a boatload of money to. Because I won't speak for you guys, but every damn fool I know who has bought and loved these books would buy more. You know, I used to have like 5 copies of the whole set. I've got some in my office, I've got plenty at home, etc. They would do that. Why? Especially if she revises it. Because she could make little corrections that some instances need to be made. Okay, we'll stop there since it's now 12:45.